Hey, welcome. You ever look at a bunch of four-sided shapes and feel like you're just trying to memorize a long list of random rules? Well, we're going to change all that today. We're going to look at these shapes not as a list, but as a family. Yeah, a family, with ancestors, descendants, and a really cool story of how they all evolved. All right, let's just dive right in. So we all know the big names in the quadrilateral family, right? You've got your squares, your rectangles, your rhombuses. They all have that one thing in common, four sides. But what really makes a square and not just a rhombus? What's the actual difference between a rectangle and a parallelogram? We're going to solve this puzzle together by building out their entire family tree. You know, every great family tree has that one foundational ancestor, that starting point. And for the main branch of our shape family, that ancestor is the parallelogram. This is where all the most important family traits come from, the ones that get passed down through all the generations. And it all kicks off with just one simple, elegant rule. A parallelogram is basically any four-sided shape where both pairs of opposite sides are parallel to each other. That's it. That is the single defining gene of the entire parallelogram line. And what's so amazing about this is that single rule, just having parallel sides, automatically gives the parallelogram these three super powerful properties. These are its built-in family traits. The opposite sides aren't just parallel anymore, they have to be equal in length. The opposite angles become equal, and the diagonals, they slice each other into perfect halves. These are the core traits that are going to get passed down to all its kids. So, from this one ancestor, the family line splits and goes down two totally different paths. Just think of the parallelogram as having two children, the rectangle and the rhombus. And each one is made by taking everything from the parallelogram and then adding just one new special rule. And that's the whole key right there, a single new instruction, like a tiny little tweak in the genetic code, creates something brand new. Let's see exactly how this works for the first child. So meet the rectangle. To get a rectangle, we take a parallelogram and we add one new rule. All four of the inside angles have to be perfect 90-degree right angles. And what's cool is, because of those parallel sides it started with, if you force just one angle to be 90 degrees, all the others have to follow.
Now, don't forget, a rectangle is still a parallelogram, so it keeps all those family traits we just talked about. But that one new rule about having right angles, that gives it a special power all its own. Its two diagonals suddenly become the exact same length. That's the rectangle's unique gift to the family tree.
Okay, now for the second child, the rhombus. To make a rhombus, we do the same thing. We start with a parallelogram, but this time we add a different rule. The new rule is all four sides have to be equal in length. This time, we're not worried about the angles at all, just the sides. And just like its sibling, the rhombus gets all the parallelogram's base traits, but its new rule, having four equal sides, gives it a completely different special power. Now, its diagonals cross each other at a perfect 90-degree angle. They're perpendicular. Pretty cool, huh? So let's just quickly recap that split. We start with one common ancestor, the parallelogram, and we take two different evolutionary steps. For the rectangle, we put a new condition on the angles. For the rhombus, we put a new condition on the sides. Two simple little changes, and we get two very different shapes. Okay, so if the rectangle and the rhombus are the children, what do you think happens when those two family lines finally come together? Well, you get the grandchild, the ultimate shape that takes the absolute best of both worlds. Seriously, think about it for a second. What kind of shape would have the rectangle's special power of equal diagonals and the rhombus's special power of perpendicular diagonals? What happens when you mash those two genetic codes together? You get the square. The square is this powerhouse descendant that is literally a rectangle and a rhombus at the exact same time. It's got four equal angles, just like a rectangle, and it's got four equal sides, just like a rhombus. It's the perfect marriage of the two family lines. And you can see this inheritance so clearly on this chart. Look, that first property, diagonals bisecting each other, that comes from the grandparent, the parallelogram, so of course everyone has it. Then the rectangle throws in its special power, equal diagonals. The rhombus adds its own, perpendicular diagonals. And the square gets everything. It checks every single box. It inherits every special power from its entire family.
Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but where the heck does the trapezoid fit into all this? Is it like an ancient ancestor, a sibling? Really, the best way to think about the trapezoid is as a member of the extended family. Like a close cousin, but on a slightly different branch of the tree.
See, the rule for a trapezoid is even more relaxed than a parallelograms. It just needs at least one pair of opposite sides to be parallel. It doesn't care about the second pair. This makes it a much more, general kind of category.
So yeah, that cousin metaphor really is perfect. A parallelogram with its two pairs of parallel sides is technically a special kind of trapezoid. But our main family line, the one that gives us rectangles and squares, that one comes directly from the more specific rules of the parallelogram.
All right, we've met all the key members of the family. We've seen how they're all related, how they pass down traits, and how they evolve. So now it's time to zoom out and look at the complete family map all at once. And when you put it all together like this, you see that this isn't just some random collection of shapes. It's a hierarchy, a beautiful, logical progression from the most general shape to the most specific. And here it is, the whole story. We start with the simple idea of any four-sided shape, the quadrilateral. We add one rule, one pair of parallel sides, and we get the trapezoid. Then we add a second pair of parallel sides to get our key ancestor, the parallelogram. From there, the path splits to the rectangle and the rhombus. And finally, those two paths join back together to create the most specific, most powerful shape of them all, the square.
You know that classic saying, every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. It makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? A square is a type of rectangle because it fits the definition. It's a parallelogram with right angles, but it also has that extra rule, the equal sides, that most rectangles just don't have. The family tree makes that relationship totally clear. And that really is the biggest takeaway here. When you think of these shapes as a family with their own inherited traits and evolutionary paths, the rules stop being this random list you have to memorize for a test. They become chapters in a story, a logical story that's a whole lot easier and hopefully a whole lot more interesting to understand and actually remember.